Liverpool lift the Premier League trophy as is in a 8-goal thriller against Chelsea. They win at Anfield alongside Aston Villa getting out of the relegation zone after a victory against Arsenal. Welcome to the Football Baron podcast, and today here are what we are going to be talking about. Leicester City again falling short of what it is they need to maintain that Champions League qualification. And what it turned out was Tottenham winning in a 3-0 scoreline. Of course, Harry Kane getting that brace and Heung-min Son starting the scoreline after a deflection and, of course, an own goal. And overall, just solid performance from Tottenham. Just they've been pretty in good form lately, and they're re-signing some of their key players such as Eric Dyer and really just getting back into that groove with, of course, their lead goal scorer, Harry Kane. He was out injured, not really scoring as much, just trying to get that fitness up and that sharpness. And, of course, he got that brace. Just solid performance from Tottenham in terms of just getting those 3 points. And Leicester City will, unfortunately, be looking very down from that loss and losing more points in the race to get that Champions League qualification. Watford versus Manchester City. Now, Watford just destroyed by Manchester City in a 4-0 scoreline. We saw Ben Foster say something interesting regarding how it's something ordinary with the club. And, of course, he was talking about how Nigel Pearson, the third manager of the season, was fired because after the West Ham defeat, he just got fired, and there's reports that there was potentially a verbal altercation with him and the board or the owner, and I think that's one of the most stupidest decisions that Watford and in the Premier League we've seen this season. Just what was the point of Watford doing that? Nigel Pearson really just helped push Watford out of that relegation zone. There's like all sorts of rumors that he had a verbal altercation and that there was a relegation, like if he avoided relegation, that he would be given a massive bonus. But just ignoring those rumors as a whole, what's the point of sacking a manager 2 games in? And there's really just 0 point in that. Now, what happened later after this game was Aston Villa winning against Arsenal, and now they're out of that relegation zone. So what Watford have really done is just take out one of their best hopes in maintaining to be out of that relegation zone and not go into the championship, and they just screwed it over. There was no point in sacking Nigel Pearson with only 2 games remaining. Because what exactly is the reasoning? Oh, he talked badly to the owner. Or he's literally pushing your team across so you don't get relegated. You're the third manager of the season and you sack him again. To sack another manager. That's not how you're going to be able to build a club or just stay in the Premier League if you're just sacking managers left and right. Now, that's just a major problem. And what the worst thing is that now they're just on the down foot because their next opponent, and this was a tough opponent, of course, Manchester City, and then their next opponent is Arsenal, and Arsenal who just lost to Aston Villa, so they're going to be looking to prove a point. And I just don't think it's really positive for them right now. And the last match day, the last couple of matches, the last match for all the teams will be very interesting because we're going to see an Aston Villa side rejuvenate, as well as a Watford side who is in low confidence and they don't have their manager, and this is their last game when they could have just kept them on. But we'll see what's going on in that match. Speaking of Nigel Pearson being sacked at Watford, we're going to talk about another relegation struggler, Aston Villa versus Arsenal. And the match that they had, just Aston Villa just surprisingly holding a clean sheet, which was to surprise to many people and as well as me, and winning with Trezeguet scoring a goal with a nice finish, and just overall impressive from Aston Villa, and the fact that they're now one spot above the relegation zone is really a strong position that they have now. They're of course against West Ham, who have secured safety in the Premier League with a draw against Manchester United, but still overall solid from Aston Villa. And if they're on the front foot, it looks like in the next match with West Ham, because West Ham is going to should be more relaxed unless they show a strong mentality. They should be more relaxed knowing that, of course, they are in the Premier League now and they're safe from any relegation. But looking at Aston Villa and their win against Arsenal, you just see those few players just really holding Aston Villa up. They've been the only players that have been really keeping Aston Villa just hold it up above water and not drown in the relegation zone. Now that's Jack Grealish and Mings, and recently Trezeguet, but most importantly, ever since he came back from his injury, McGinn. Now, McGinn has just been pretty solid for Aston Villa. I think those three areas of the pitch, we got the attack in Jack Grealish, we got the midfield in McGinn, and we got the defense in Tyrone Mings. Now, overall, I think it's good from Aston Villa, but I also do think that just looking at the squad, they just really lacking in depth. John McGinn, just when he was injured, of course they had players that they could replace him with, but there's not that same quality depth. And we've seen that problem with Aston Villa, because when they were promoted to the Premier League, they relied on a lot of players who were on loan, such as Tammy Abraham and other players like those. They couldn't replace all those players right away, and I think that will and has been hampering their status in the Premier League. It could continue to hamper them with this last game that's coming up against West Ham, but we'll truly have to see. If they do stay in the Premier League, or if they go back into the Championship and are trying to get back into the Premier League, then they're really going to need to focus on that depth, because what they did with focusing on a lot of lone players who really helped them stay above water, then they really do need that depth again to stay in the Premier League, and of course go back to the Premier League if they do somehow get relegated. And just overall, looking at the depth as well, we see players such as Jack Grealish. Now, there's of course a lot of speculation about his future in an Aston Villa shirt, but just looking at him on the pitch, you can see him covering a lot of distance, but at the end of the game, you just see him falling on the ground because he's tired. And I think there's a lot of fitness problems, because they're relying on these players, and I think Jack Grealish is giving it his all, because it is his hometown club and the club that he loves and supports, that he's giving it all his all. And if physically, I don't think it's going to be something he can hold out for much longer. Thankfully, he only has one more game. But still, just physically, they're relying on him a lot, and they're relying on other players a lot, that it's not looking good for Aston Villa, despite the fact that they're out of the relegation zone. Another crucial match was, of course, Manchester United versus West Ham. Now, what we saw, of course, was West Ham drawing against Manchester United. Paul Pogba, one of the interesting highlights from that game was Paul Pogba. We saw Declan Rice, I believe, getting a shot at goal, and it was pretty fast ball. And what we saw was, of course, Paul Pogba raising his hands in the penalty box, and of course that's considered a handball, and VAR reviewed it and ultimately ruled a penalty, and Antonio for West Ham slotted it and gave them a lead. Of course, Greenwood later in the second half would level the scoreline, but Manchester United a little uncomfortable with what the situation they're facing, because the upcoming fixture, the last game of the season, they're going to be facing Leicester City, and if they don't win against Leicester City, or if they win or draw against Leicester City, I believe they will get top four, but if they lose to Leicester, then of course they will not get Champions League football. So definitely an interesting situation for them in Leicester, and of course Chelsea, who also are in contention for that Champions League football. But overall, interesting game. West Ham securing safety, and we'll see what's happened next. Another important game was, of course, that Liverpool versus Chelsea game. Wow, that was 8-goal thriller. Absolutely a right way for Liverpool to lift that trophy. Of course, I think that Liverpool would prefer to have that clean sheet, but still impressive. I'm sure their fans enjoyed that game. Let's see. Well, it started off with Naby Keita getting a goal. Really just strong setup to that play. Wijnaldum and him, a solid performance from them in getting that goal. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold from a set piece. And then we see Jorginho Wijnaldum with the goal. And then Giroud responds right before the end of first half. And then Firmino gets his first home goal at Anfield for this season, I believe, and overall. And just impressive. Really happy for him. And then you see something interesting. Chelsea subs in, Frank Lampard subs in a couple of players, Tammy Abraham and Pulisic, for example. And then they instantly respond. Christian Pulisic with a nice assist and cuts through Liverpool's defense, passes to Tammy Abraham. Great. Pulisic again making it 4-3. So Liverpool were on the edge of the seats. But in the end, Liverpool got their own subs in, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain gets in and scores that goal to just clinch it at the 84th minute. Overall, strong, just really entertaining football to start, and I think Jurgen Klopp was maybe purposefully looking to do that just so we can entertain Liverpool fans with that classic, entertaining heavy metal football. But still impressive from Liverpool. Just great for them, good for them. 30 years in the making, and ultimately in the end they did lift that trophy, and a good thing for the club and the supporters. I'm looking at more at the match specifically. There were some players I was a little disappointed in, specifically Mohamed Salah. Just very, very poor what he was doing. He was involved in some of the plays, but just what he was doing and his finishing, I don't know. The past couple of games have not been that highly noteworthy of Mo Salah. Just really just bottling a lot of chances. But anyways, just ignoring Mo Salah's failed attempts at scoring goals from chances. Still good, impressive performance from Liverpool, and they will lift that trophy, and they have lifted that trophy at Anfield. All right, let's go over some stories and what's going on in the football world, as well as some transfer stories, and of course our last segment, Wonderkid to watch. Now, let's focus on the Balon'dor. What happened? Ballon will not be happening this year, and I think that's an absolute disgrace. Why the heck are you not putting the Ballon d'Or today? And the reasoning was because there's not enough football being played. That's just stupid. Well, what's the point? What's the point? There was no reason for canceling it. There's enough football being played. There's enough football being played to judge who is for Ballon d'Or, who deserves the Ballon d'Or. And I think those two key players that have been robbed of it is Kevin De Bruyne and Robert Lewandowski. Why the heck are they not given the chance to get that Ballon d'Or? Because let's be honest, Messi and Ronaldo do not deserve it this season and this year, and I don't think that they would have gotten it in the first place unless somehow it was just a stupid decision. But looking at De Bruyne and Lewandowski, those two, I'm not going to debate who I think should deserve the Ballon d'Or, but I am going to say those two were in contention for the Ballon d'Or because those two deserved it for what their performances are in the Champions League, in their local, in what league that they were playing. They should have won that Ballon d'Or. One of them should have won it, and I feel that they're just robbed of it, and it's absolutely freaking disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting why they haven't been, how they've just been robbed of it. Just by canceling it, not enough football being played. That's the most lame excuse I've ever heard in my life. What is the point of the Ballon d'Or if you're just going to cancel it despite there's football being played with the Premier League and the Bundesliga being brought back in, all the leagues being brought back in? What's the point of it? The Champions League is coming back. You can't just do that. You literally can't do that. That's just so... If there's another Football of the Year, I think there's another Football of the Year award. If they give that to someone who's not De Bruyne or Robert Lewandowski, I'm going to be very, very disappointed because those two players deserve it. One of them deserve it. I'm not going to say who. I have my own personal ideas on who, but I'm not going to say it. But one of those two, or just those two, either of those two need to win that Player of the Year, and it's a shame that they didn't win the Ballon d'Or, and I think it's absolutely disgusting and a disgrace. All right, moving on to a transfer story. Despite that disgusting Ballon d'Or decision, Callum Hudson Odoi wants to leave Chelsea. It's reported, according to, I was looking at a transfer market, and there's reports of that, and Callum Hudson Odoi just, I think he's a key young talent for them, but just, I think it's interesting that they give him a big money contract. For those of you who don't know, Tammy Abraham, there's reports that he wanted a new contract, and I believe he got a new one. But there was some friction with him and the club because Callum Hudson Odoi got a major contract with a lot of pay, and he doesn't even play that much. But Tammy Abraham wanted it as well. And of course, Tammy Abraham has had more of an influence this season. But now Callum Hudson Odoi wants to leave potentially Chelsea because he's not getting enough playing time. Of course, there's some interest from Bayern, and there was some interest from Bayern earlier in the past, but they were skeptical about his injury problems, such as that Achilles injury. And I think it's interesting and, not gonna lie, kind of funny how he's getting paid, I believe, $150,000 right? 150,000 a week, 150,000 euros or pounds or whatever currency. And the fact that he's not getting enough playing time, and he's upset about that, and I can understand why, because he's a great young talent and he needs that experience to reach that potential. But now he wants to potentially leave Chelsea because he can't get that playing time. I heard Frank Lampard just saying he needs to just keep putting those strong performances in training. But then again, I mean, there's other players coming in like Werner and Ziyech who could also be part of the plans to replace him, Hudson Odoi, and either he leaves or gets loaned out or something along those lines. But I don't know. We'll see. But there's reports that he wants to leave, and I think it's interesting and just not gonna lie, slightly funny how he's getting paid 150,000, and of course, no, he's not being used that well. We saw him in a couple appearances, such as that I believe Manchester United and Chelsea game. In that FA Cup, but other than that, just not really getting that much playing time. He also has injuries and stuff, but overall, just a funny thing. Moving on to our Wonderkid to watch, a segment we do every podcast where we talk about a Wonderkid, a player who's young and just with a lot of potential to become a top class player. And now this Wonderkid to watch is a English player from the championship side Birmingham and who is moving to Borussia Dortmund, Jude Bellingham. Just an interesting player, and looking more at him, you just see how intriguing he is. Playing at 16 and 17, 16 to 17 in the championship, an interesting league where it comes to physicality and overall just not something you'd see a young kid be playing. But overall, impressive what he's doing there, and some of the key attributes, quick on his feet, and like he can twist and turn past players quickly, and of course his role is in that center midfield, so it's even more impressive how he's able to move around in that midfield. And another interesting thing is at 16 to 17, he just recently turned 17, I believe, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. And what's interesting is that 16, when he was 16 for much of that season, and now he's 17, his ability to play full 90 minutes is just amazing, because you see these young athletes, young kids who have a lot of potential. They're not majority of the time playing those full 90 minutes because they're still developing physically, getting that work engine to really push themselves for that full 90 minutes. But the fact that he's able to, yeah, it's just incredible. So if we look at some of his stats for his age and in the league that he's in, which is fairly physical and just really competitive, let's just look at it. Regular championship football for Birmingham, age 16, just recently turned 17, a month or 4 weeks ago, whatever. 40 appearances, 4 goals, and 3 assists. Now, I think that's absolutely impressive. I mean, there's a load of clubs that wanted him, including Borussia Dortmund, and Borussia Dortmund is ultimately the club he's going to be going to. But what he's able to do at this young age is really incredible. And of course, there was reports and interest from all sorts of clubs, such as Manchester United, but he ultimately chose Dortmund, and it's believed because he was allured by Dortmund's ability to turn young talents into top-class players, such as, of course, Pulisic and Sancho, Jadon Sancho, who is reported to potentially leave for Manchester United. But again, what we're seeing is a top-class player potentially moving, another English player such as Jadon Sancho, moving to Germany in a club like Borussia Dortmund, who can turn them into a top-class talent. And I think Jude Bellingham, it could very well be another top-class player coming to Dortmund, coming to Germany, and turning into a refined product of a player in terms of fully refined in his attributes and just being developed quite well. And I think that one thing that Dortmund and him are going to have to address is some people may say that he's an early developer in terms of just he developed quite well physically and just technically early, which still is impressive, but they might say there's not much else for him. But then again, I still think that Jude Bellingham, in my opinion, has a great future. And if Dortmund can do what they do with many other talents and what they're doing with talents right now, with the likes of Giovanni Reina and Erling Haaland, then I think that Dortmund and Jude Bellingham can prove that he isn't an early developer and he's a player of the future, a top-class player of the future from Birmingham for England, and will be an important player in the years to come. Well, that will be the end of this podcast, the Football Baron podcast, this episode. I want to thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, the podcast, it's, of course, Football Baron is our YouTube channel for those who aren't watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that like button, comment down below what you think of this video. If you have any thoughts, we'd love to talk to you. We usually do respond quite quickly. And, of course, subscribe to us on that platform. And if you are not watching on YouTube, if you're watching on or listening to on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, please subscribe to us and rate us 5 stars because it really helps us get more notice. Thank you again for watching and listening to this podcast. Hope you all have a great day.